Today I want to remember Harold Rowell. Harold gave a talk here in March 2007 titled F-28 Diversion Due Fault, and in June followed up with World War II flying experiences. Sadly, Harold's no longer with us. Sid Goddard paid tribute to Harold in the February 2010 meeting when he spoke of Harold's experiences flying Bostons in the Pacific Islands and then flying for MMA in the Northwest. But he's probably best known, unfortunately, for a diversion at night to Fitzroy Crossing in an F-28 which had barely fumes in the tank when he landed. And he wrote of this and much more besides in a humorous and thoughtful account of his time as a pilot and as a businessman. Eliza Jane Sharp emailed me and she had forwarded this on to Dr. David Hoff, and he wrote to me, and I quote, 4 weeks ago I put a notice in the Can You Help page in the West Australian. Could anyone put me in contact with Helen Sullivan, the duty nurse at Fitzroy Crossing on the night of Harold's landing? Eventually I made contact with her. She's now living in Victoria. She was 21-year-old Helen Mackay at the time, became Helen Sullivan in 1986, and now Helen Thomas. She told me a fascinating story from the point of view of nurses in 90s flitting around the runway, putting out the flares on the runway. She has a different take on why Harold ran into trouble. The crew was sent from Port Hedland to bleed the fuel lines, and Harold was instructed not to fly the aircraft until the undercarriage was inspected for damage because he landed on a gravel runway. But Harold knew that there was no accommodation for 56 people in Fitzroy Crossing and no way of getting them out other than by flying. He was a resourceful man. He instructed the telephone exchange to shut down until he was in the air, and that afternoon took off with passengers for Derby. He remained incommunicado while in the air, and Helen believes that ignoring this instruction was what got him into trouble.